Hey, Barrett Edelstein here, your celeb expert and your Celeb Savant. Celeb Savant is a weekly entertainment show. We have long-form career retrospective type interviews with celebrities, singers, actors, and industry experts. Having grown up in the spotlight, picking up a guitar and learning to play along with some of his favorite blues albums at the age of 3, Nathan Cavaleri had mastered the electric guitar by the age of 5 and ticked off his first official gig a year later. Amongst a devastating leukemia diagnosis and a burgeoning profile, as some of Australian music industry royals flocked to his skills and story. Nathan was soon performing extensively around the country alongside the likes of Jimmy Barnes and Diesel, going on to tour globally alongside Etta James, Bonnie Raitt and B.B. King, while still receiving treatment for leukemia. Simultaneously forging his long-term resilience and pursuit for purpose, Cavaleri would receive a clean bill of health at the age of 13 before going on to sign to Michael Jackson's MJJ Records after a competitive bidding war between both Prince and Madonna. Nathan released 2 albums as a solo artist, Jamming with the Cats in 1993 and Nathan in 1994. He has been a member of various groups including Dirty Skanks from 2003 to 2010 and Nat Cole and the Kings 2010 to 2012. Nathan is currently releasing music as a solo artist, with his latest offering Miracles having been recently released. Up next on Celeb Savant, we've got Nathan Cavaleri. Where do we find you in the world? How are you doing and what's happening in your life?
Yeah, right now I'm in Sydney, Australia, and I'm approaching the end of, the first part of the tour for my latest album, Miracles. And this will be the second album that I've released under my name since I was a kid. And that's when I was signed to Michael Jackson's label. And that's where most people in Australia and America know me for the work that I've done back then as a kid, right up until I was about 14 or 15. And then life happened between then and now. And this will be my second album, since returning.
You've mentioned some of your history and background. So let's rewind. I know it's a number of years in the entertainment industry. So the hybrid journey, you mentioned as a kid you were signed to Michael Jackson's label. And how did that progress to where we are currently?
Yeah, I mean, it rewinded a little bit further back. I couldn't have engineered the career that I had at all. I was madly in love with guitar from a very young age. My relationship with guitar deepened when I got sick as a kid. So I was sick with leukemia at about 6 or 7 years old. And the Starlight Foundation, who grants wishes to battling kids, granted me a wish to meet Mark Knopfler from Dire Straits. So
yeah.
They flew me and my family when I was 7 years old to jam with him in the UK. And the media followed that. And then I became, I suppose, quite a regular on primetime TV. And that's how I got signed my first record deal, which was via one of the biggest rock singers we've got here in Australia, Jimmy Barnes. Yeah, and I went on tour with him and one of my other idols, Diesel, around Australia for about 5 weeks. So I was about 10 years old then. And that's when I met who later became my manager that brought me to the States. And that's when I went on to play with some of the most amazing blues musicians. You know, at that time I was all pretty straight up blues.
Yep.
And, you know, from Albert Collins to Robin Ford, B.B. King. I toured with B.B. King for a fair while. And that was all around about the time that I was signed to Michael Jackson's label. So onwards from there, I think probably the biggest career highlight was when B.B. King asked me to perform for him and the Clintons when they were in office. And that was when he was accepting his Kennedy Award. Yeah. And I think after that, you know, there were a series of circumstances that happened that made myself and my parents go, I think we need to kind of take a bit of a break and just, you know, and they were like, oh, we want to give you more space to be able to make a decision on what you want to do moving forward. You know, they always gave me a way out. There was never any push there.
But so how old were you at this time? Sorry to interrupt. How old were you?
At that time, I was between about 13, 14. then so I spent the later part of my teenage years just going to school, and I continued to sort of write music, but I felt they were awkward years. They were awkward years when it comes to identity, and even just being a little uncomfortable, being in the spotlight. I felt really uncomfortable. So I spent a good portion of that time in my 20s looking at just other ways that I wanted to spend my time. I was in construction for a while. Right. I continued to write music and produce. I learned a lot of my production during that time, and then got into screen composing for a fair while. And I had a couple of bands going on, just to try and experiment. I didn't use my name. And I suppose those bands, particularly Nat Cole and the Kings, which was a really heavy energetic blues rock band, with a drummer from a band we've got here called the Screaming Jets. And we did a lot of touring, and until I burnt out. I burnt out so badly that I couldn't even step foot into a venue or do anything. I was a carcass for quite a while. And during that time, I had to do a lot of work on myself. I had to do a lot of work on my mind and my body, and get back to, what's real, and face some fears and unhealthy beliefs that kept me closed down for a long time, until I got to that place where I'm like, you know what? I think I want to get back out there, but under my own name, with these songs that I had that were an expression of what I was going through at that time. And that's the wave that I've been riding since. So,
as a kid, you mentioned you were on television. So was that performing music-wise, or was that acting?
That was music. Yeah. So when I was on TV, I was always performing. Okay. So, and, at the time, for a good 12 plus years, we used to have a variety show that was really popular in the 80s and 90s called Hey Hey It's Saturday. And, they really provided a home for me, a stage to be able to go out into the world, experience, come back, and they'd always want to hear about it. I play my latest single, and we talk about those stories, and I really grew up on TV. I did a bit of acting. My parents, I was always really lucky that they were there right by my side to make sure that any decisions that were made were ones that would be maintaining, or at least helping me with credibility. But then I always joke and I say, well, why did you let me act for? Where were you then? So, but it's all in finding the self and what you want to do and what you're good at and stuff. But I did have a lot of fun acting. I mean, an interesting fun fact is that the first movie I was ever in, which I played a small but significant role in a movie called Camp Nowhere, the one of the actors that played a much smaller part than me was Jessica Alba.
Ah, yes, of course, yes.
Another movie that I did that I was the lead in, we had a guy come in for a tiny little part, and that was Heath Ledger.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so, but they're all good memories, yeah.
So have you ever thought about reigniting that acting?
No, I do like it. I think I put myself down more than what I should. And the world hasn't kind of steered me in that direction yet. Okay. I believe in kind of collaborating with the world and rather than trying to force anything. And not that you need to work hard, but
yes,
sometimes the life gives you signals, and those signals haven't happened yet. There's this little desire that I think it'd be fun to just play a small part in a movie and do that stuff here and there. I really enjoyed it. I really did. Yeah.
So you mentioned you've been in a lot of bands over the years and more sort of in the production or background side. What's the difference between creating music as part of that compared to creating music for yourself in your name as a solo artist?
My music that I put out there is an expression of my experiences or versions of or things that I've observed that I am really passionate about. It comes generally from a much deeper place. When I make that music, I'm satisfying myself. Okay. Or at least comes from that place, and I still kind of think of it in terms of, all right, well, how will my audience how will this be received?
Yes.
Not because I'm doing it primarily for them. That's probably a secondary, but it has to come from a place of here. You know, I have to be able to, for it to truly resonate on the inside, for it to even be entertained, you know, in getting out there. When I make music for other people, I am trying to get into their psyche.
Okay.
You know, I want to understand what it is that make them tick. You know, what are they trying to say? You know, this is not my story. This is their story. I am their hands. I'm a laborer for them. And I love playing that role as well. Like, how can I, whether I am screen composing for, you know, whatever, whether it's the TV or the ad or whatever, is what can I do to help create this vision and crystallize it? And it's not personal, which is why it's probably not as much torture involved.
Because when you're doing your own writing, it's very much self-reflection and digging deep.
Oh, yeah.
Looking in the mirror.
And sometimes you're at war with yourself on it as well, because you're battling with different parts of the brain. You're battling with your heart, but then you're also, you know, dealing with the more sort of logistical side of sounds, and that you got to deal with the perfectionist and whatever things you put in there. They've got to all somehow work it out. And so you really are. And what I've found was really helpful is I actually streamed the whole creation process of my last album.
Okay.
And like everything from most of the writing to the recording to the mixing, everything. I hit stream every time I was in the studio, and I streamed on a platform called Twitch. Yeah. And I have an amazing audience on there, and it's such a great community. And the reason why that helped is because they helped me with perspective. You know, like sometimes you lose perspective in the creative process, which is why outside ears are really important. And many times throughout the creative process, I would lose perspective, and it would take those who are watching me on Twitch, who I can read their comments and stuff like that, go, dude, you've lost the heart because you've done 50 takes. Take a fucking break. You know what I mean? Like whatever it is. Take 3 sounded amazing. And then when you've got like one person saying that, you go, yeah, whatever. But when you've got like 20 people going, that's the take, you got to listen. You got to listen to them. And you know, and you'll know it, because, you know, you step away, and then 2 days later you'll come back with fresh ears, and you're like, they're right.
Yeah.
They're right. So I found.
Wait, so when they were initially saying that to you, did you think, did you disagree initially? And then having to step away, that allowed you to agree with them?
Well, yeah, like I've been around long enough to know that if 20 people are shouting the same thing at me, that I probably got to treat that seriously, even though I disagree with it. In my head, I would go, no. But then I also know that there's like almost like different characters within yourself are driving your reactions. So was it the perfectionist that's saying, I disagree with you? Or is it my actual creative heart that's saying, I'm disagreeing with you? And when I'm that lost, I don't know. So then that's when you just go, 20 people are saying this. All right, I got to take a break. That's the take for now. I will check it to make sure, say tomorrow with fresh ears. And they've been right. You know, occasionally there would be something I cannot let go of, and you know, and then I know my heart is saying it, and that's where bravery and courage comes in, is that you make that decision despite what everybody's saying to you. So they're saying the opposite. You got to follow your heart, you know.
Are you still doing screen composition and producing for other artists as well at the moment? Balancing
Not so
three?
Much now. Yeah, I mean, I still do the occasional screen composition job, but I really enjoy that. And, you know, financially that helps to balance things out, because, you know, music can be, you know, up and down, the touring and the recording side. So, I've taken definitely a step back with producing sort of local artists and stuff. And it's something I will get back into later, but right now I'm definitely focused on just reconnecting with audiences around Australia, actually the world, to be honest. It's I'm very much interested in trying to find out where those communities are around the world that most align with what I'm trying to do. You know, I remember listening to an industry professional talk at a festival we had here, and I really loved the way that he explained it. Is like our job, especially if you're marketing music, is how do you bring your creations and get them in front of the people it most aligns with,
Okay.
and the digital world is now a worldwide market. It's
Yeah.
not like I was an artist in the 90s. We didn't have that luxury. Everything had to be, it was local, it was geographically restricted. And if you wanted to be heard in Germany or America, whatever, you needed certain industry structures in place so that you were heard there. And that took a serious amount of financial investment and people believing in you. And it was hard, but now you've got this beautiful big world that you have access to. Now the research is in, all right, where are my people? Where are the people?
Where are my people? I like
and
that.
And just put yourself out there and see what happens.
So you've referenced the digital and how it's allowed for access to various countries. Diving a little bit deeper into this topic. So I love me a CD. I still budget for a CD every month. I like that aesthetic of holding something, the pictures.
Yeah.
For me, it's a thank you to you guys for all the hard work. It's a journey to say, oh, lovely, I'm going to choose this CD this month and getting it delivered, the excitement of opening it, and so on and so forth. We've got the digital as well, as you referenced. I'm not sure if you're aware that CDs, vinyls, and cassettes are all making a huge comeback. For example, last year alone, CDs had the first growth in 21 years. And vinyl sold 5.5 million alone in the UK, the biggest since 1990. Besides the geographical advantage of digital, what you've already mentioned, what are your perceptions of both? Do you prefer either or? Let's unpack it.
Yeah, I definitely prefer I would say the experience of CD and vinyl is more fulfilling to me and allows the music to do its job just that little bit more because of the rituals around it. It's not so much because it's an actual CD. Like, I don't care whether it's, I'm spinning music from a dinner plate or whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. As long as I'm hearing it, I love the artwork. I love the artwork and just opening something up, right? But I feel like it's the rituals and that come with vinyl and CDs that probably just give music just that little bit more of a chance and more meaning, because you have to make choices.
Yes.
Like you have to go, all right, what's the CD I'm going to get today?
Yeah.
And so I remember growing up going, I know this person has got a CD, this band's got a CD coming out. I remember when it is, and I'd have to make sure that I'm there at the music store to make sure I get it before it's sold out. Otherwise, I've got to wait for it to for them to stop it, right? So there's this anticipation. Now you're on this, it's almost like foreplay, it's anticipation. And then I get down there and I get the victory, right? Fantastic. Now I haven't heard it yet, right? But the thing is that because of the effort that I put into, getting this CD, I'm going to give it a chance. I'm not going to just next my way through every song, hear the first 4 bars and go to the next one and the next one. I'm like, I'm going to make sure I milk it as much as possible. If this song is not doing it for me straight away, I'll listen to it again. I'll listen to it tomorrow. I'll give it a chance. I'll go through to the last song on the album, and that's how a lot of slow burn songs, I feel like they disappear these days because people don't give it a chance. Yeah. And so I liked the general experience. As far as like discovering new music, discoverability has never been better. Today that's huge. That's huge. If I needed to find new music back in the day, I mean, it would be through reading articles in the local street press, word of mouth. It was definitely not browsing at a CD store, but maybe a little bit. But discoverability is incredible now, and worldwide music, right? Access to it. So I feel like, there's definitely pros and cons to both. I think as an artist, it's I personally like it better now because it makes it a bit easier to find my audience. Yeah, I mean, I'll give you an example. Michael Jackson's label were like, we feel like there's a market for you in South Korea. Okay, cool. So they send me over to South Korea. They've got distributors there, all that type of stuff. I do a bunch of gigs and everything. And okay, so South Korea. Now I'm in the South Korean market. Things didn't work out. The numbers didn't work out in terms of sales. off the shelves straight away. There's only a small amount of time. They go, all right. Now at that point, I could no longer be heard in South Korea. Gone. Right.
That's just weird.
And that's the way that it was. That's the way that it was in the 90s. It's like any country, they would give you a chance. And if you didn't sell, well, they're not going to invest in stocking the product anymore. And then you're gone. So now I spend my $10 or whatever it is a year to have me up on Spotify worldwide. And that's also why songs are getting first, second, third, fourth, fifth lives, because they're always out there. Their discoverability is huge. And, maybe like I have so many artist friends, when they released an album, it did nothing. And then in 2 years' time, it just went boom, just because something happened on social media in relation to one of their songs.
Yes.
Some sort of community has discovered it via the algorithms of Spotify, and then, it's worked out. So, there's pros and cons to both, but I'm very much enjoying it. Yeah. But, if you like the CD experience, you do the CD thing, discover it online, buy the CD.
So I use both. I mean, I've got Spotify, simply for the fact is I teach spinning classes and I've created playlists for that. So I've got my Spotify for that, and then I buy the CDs. My artists.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's where it's at. Yeah, for sure. I mean, at the end of the day, like the internet really for me is a fantastic marketing tool, and then you make the choice on how you want to listen to your music. The one thing I do miss a lot, and it's something I'm working on in my house, I really enjoyed growing up with a designated music listening area that was just for that. Like our audio entertainment now is tied in with screens. I don't like that. When my kids, and this has become evident now since I had kids, because I'm like, wow, there's not like this line between, music and visual, because they just see it as, I'm listening to something, I want to see it as well. Why is the screen black when you're playing this? You know what I mean? Like back in the day, it was like, the TV's over here, the hi-fi system is over there.
Yeah.
It's music time over there. And I really love that.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about the new album.
Miracles.
Yes.
That a good part of that came out of COVID, just like 20 million other artists. I think
yes.
Miracles, I suppose in a funny sort of way, is an evolution from Demons, my previous album. If Demons was more, it was probably a little bit more introverted, and understated. It was me definitely dipping my toe in the water to see whether I had the capacity to tour and do this, again, after burning out. It was also a time of self-discovery and learning about myself, and that's kind of reflected in my approach to the production. Not that I listen to the production and go, you could have done that better, but just just probably a little bit more tentative and restrained, and the sentiments of the song. Some of the songs were like that as well. But Miracles was about, all right, enough self-discovery. Now it's time for action and leaping and trusting yourself and backing yourself. And so that was the space in which Miracles came about. And I would say that being truthful, like brutally honest with myself in what I want to do, what I want to create, what I want to express was literally my anchor. That's what I wanted to create. And being really heavy-handed with it and brave, which was hard because I had to really face the things that were holding me back throughout that process. So, all of the songs that are on there are, as I've mentioned, expressions of some of my experiences, and we've got everything in there from like, there's some pretty tender songs like Gone to God, which is kind of me making sense of mortality, and in a childlike wonderment way. There's, Go Quietly is about, experiences that I had when I was in that deep and dark place where I became quite sensitive to other people's happiness and I felt abandoned. There's a song called My Boys, which is being a dad now, is that experience of when their first day of school, when you send them off into the big world, and you really got to surrender that, and you surrender to it with some sort of trust and hope that they're going to be accepted for the boys that they are. And then I got some, bangers that are like Miracles itself. That's that's an absolute banger. And Comfort Zones, and there's a lot of tongue in cheek, and it's kind of, in some way it's rooted in the blues. Like you can still hear the blues roots in this album, but it ventures definitely beyond, like into the world of rock and alternative rock. And yeah, I'm really, really, really proud of it. I can hear how deep I went with it. And I do have to give a special thanks to Andrew Sheps. I don't know if you know him, but Andrew Sheps is the mix engineer that's responsible for anything from Chili Peppers to Lana Del Rey.
Yes.
Michael Jackson, like a lot of amazing artists. And he encouraged me to mix it. Everybody encouraged me to mix it. I mean, that is what I do, but I was always quite hesitant to mix my own stuff because I was not convinced that I would be able to stay anchored and not lose myself in perfectionism. Okay. And he was like, I will oversee it for you, which is, I couldn't have, like, he's an idol. Like, he's one of my mixed idols. And for him to take the time and just go, send me mixes and I'll just give you some little notes here and there. And that's also, I think when you have a backstop like that, it's like you've got something now to push up against, to be brave. And you don't, have to kind of go, I've got to reel myself in. You go, all right, well, he's going to tell me to stop. I'm just going to keep pushing. I'm going to go hard. He's going to be the one to go, all right, pull it back. So, that's Miracles. And we've been touring it now since March.
And how's the tour going?
Tour's great. This is the first year that I felt at home on the road. It's been a process over the last 3 or 4 years to find home. Like I would have some pretty hardcore psychological issues. The days of gigs, even being away on tour in itself was really difficult. But over those few years, I got to a place where I could trust myself, but I wasn't fully open. I was still experiencing things with the psychological guard. I was still kind of hesitant and everything. And this year I just went, fuck living like this. I'm just going to just fully immerse myself to the touring experience. Yeah. If I fall flat on my face, like I have in the past, I will deal with it. And I'm glad I approached it like that, because I've just felt so free this year.
That's amazing.
And the crowds, they are beaming. Like I will say that it seems to be translating in all the ways that I hoped and more.
I love this game. I know if I had to ask you this question in 2 minutes, 2 years, 2 hours, I know your answer will be different every single time, because there are millions of them. And I recognize that and I understand that. If you had to push play to 5 songs by other artists once we finish this conversation, what would those 5 songs be and by whom?
Wow. I'm going to rattle off the first that come to mind. So
That's exactly it, yes.
I'm going to go Bad Moon Rising, Creedence Clearwater. I'm going to go Pretty Noose by Soundgarden. I'm probably going to go Brothers in Arms, Dire Straits.
Yep.
What's that? That's 3, right?
Yeah, 2 more.
Yeah. Diesel has a song that changed my life and showed me what I want to do for the rest of my life. And it's called Man Alive. It's off one of the biggest albums that he's had, Hep Fidelity. Okay. And that's the one that I supported him and Jimmy on when I was a kid. And maybe the last one, I'm probably going to say, I'm going to be completely cliche and probably go Smells Like Teen Spirit, Nirvana. Yeah, but it will change dramatically.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's what I love about this game, because every time you get asked, I'm like, okay, these 5. 2 minutes later, okay, those 5. Yeah. That's why.
That's right. Yeah, and you know what? If you've worded it great, because there would have been too much pressure to have to go, what's your top 5 songs?
Yeah.
Like, I can't answer that.
Exactly.
Yeah, in the mood that I'm in right now, that's what I'd be playing. Cool. Quite a contrast when I think about it.
So the podcast is listened to throughout the world. So as a final message to the listening audience, what would you like to say?
The final message I would like to say is, if you're doing anything creative, well, actually probably any decisions that you make throughout the career, always hold on to the reasons why you are doing it. that original reason for why you're doing it, where that spark is, what made you kind of just go, boom, this is what I want to do, right? When you hold on to that, you've got access to your internal compass. When you forget that, you don't. And what happens when you're moving through your career, you're going to get people pushing you this way, that way, expressing whatever opinions, invited, uninvited. If you don't have access to that thing inside yourself to pair up all that information, you'll risk losing yourself. And so many artists, so many people lose themselves because of that. So keep bringing it back to here, and you'll be able to navigate much better throughout this crazy, crazy world and overly opinionated one.